You've logged on to www.dailyrecord.co.uk. David McCarthy, Gavin Berry, Scott McDermoth, myself, Jim Traynor, we've just been discussing Neil Lennon's call for Rangers to be stripped of titles.
First of all, it's not Neil Lennon's call to strip Rangers of titles. It is an SFA plan, having looked at the serious nature of the crimes by Rangers, that the Daily Record have sought to interview Neil Lennon about, that he might put his feelings in print. Glasgow Rangers have, for almost 100 years, been guilty of cheating and corrupt practices in Scottish football. Neil Lennon is simply stating that he thinks it's right that while Rangers were signing players on double contracts, which is the antithesis of every single rule of fair play in football, that Rangers should be punished. You decide all the way through this discussion.
Okay, should you not? If it's shown that Rangers are guilty of their use of EBTs, or if they had dual contracts, and therefore they shouldn't have had those players, should they have those titles still in the record books?
Yes, I mean, I just don't know what it would achieve really by taking.
I don't know what it would achieve really. What it would achieve would be a principle welded into the SFA, the SFL and the SPL, that fair play trumps everything, and that the hidden Masonic hand matters nothing to the running of Scottish football. It really should lead to the firing of every single Masonic hand in Scottish football. It should go further, but the people of Scotland are still being lied to by a wicked and less than free press.
Rangers still had to get out and sign certain players.
Yeah, but if you're using money that you really shouldn't be using, or using it in a way that shouldn't be used, then you wouldn't have had those players, would you?
But does every club no spend money that they've not got?
Well, does every club no spend money that they've no got? It's not about spending money that you don't have. There's such a thing as credit. There is such a thing as bank loans. And Rangers in those days would easily have got a bank loan on the strength of the financial clout of David Murray. Rangers didn't bother about bank loans. Rangers brought in illegal tax evading principles and plans.
They're what, 700-800 million worth of debt. I mean, you start taking things off and saying Sir Alex Ferguson isn't the great manager that he is because he's overspent.
But this is all about sport and integrity, isn't it?
Yeah, Scottish football's been full of that in the last few years.
Not that they all laugh that Scotland and Scottish football has been full of sporting integrity. These guys know that Scotland has been bereft of sporting integrity for one reason. They are Rangers. No one likes them. They don't care. They hate Celtic. Fenian bastards. Wow. If this was in the United States of America, this club would have been shut down a century ago. And every single individual who has been bad-mouthed by them would have million-dollar issues where they could literally go to court and sue Rangers and people like the odious Mr. Traynor for the kind of comments that he brings out in his funny little newspaper role as the champion of the Bears at the Daily Ranger in Glasgow. The Daily Ranger, for those of you who don't know, is the Daily Record. in making a complaint to the Press Complaints Commission in London, I was told that the Daily Record were entitled to be a partisan club, that editors are entitled to have a partisan opinion on anything. Effectively, they can print or fail to print anything they wish. And as members of the Bilderberg group, they do.
To do with sporting integrity?
No.
If it had, we wouldn't be in this mess.
Absolutely.
You think is there now a malice against Rangers? The decision's being taken through vindictiveness now?
Is this vindictiveness? No, it is indeed sporting integrity. 96% of all football fans who responded stated that Rangers have cheated. And they're speaking of for the last 20 years. But the vast majority of Scots do not know that John Ure Primrose pledged Glasgow Rangers to the Masonic Order, and that along with Bill Struth, they went and recruited from the Masonic lodges and the Orange lodges. And this is hidden today by the entire media, or the Bilderberg group. The Bilderberg group didn't exist in the 1912 to 1920 time when Rangers made this pledge. But vindictiveness? Are you kidding me? These clubs have been robbed. They have been raped. Airdrieonians FC, a club which Jim Traynor claims to support, yet the fans of Airdrie say he sat on his hands and did nothing, while Rangers put Airdrie to the sword. They shut them down for £30,000, which would be about $45,000 to $50,000 at that particular time. Rangers currently owe $200 million, £135 million. 100 million of those pounds are flat tax evasion. Tax evasion. Yet they claim to be loyal to the Queen and to the country.
Jim, that there comes a point where the club has to stop being punished. I think it has been punished quite substantially.
But then the SFA, well, they still argue, don't they, David, that demotion to third division for Rangers is not punishment, it's a consequence of their own actions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, the demotion of Rangers to the third division is a form of punishment, but we're talking about crimes from the past year of business, just over a year. It was in May of last year that Craig Whyte took over at Rangers. But Craig Whyte took over a poisoned pup. Craig Whyte took over a team, and he was trying to get this team, and I've stated often that this is to take Rangers to and through administration. Sadly, Rangers were unable to overcome the European hurdle, and their manager Ali McCoist and the players who were playing on a daily basis and a weekly basis were unable to stay in the Champions League. That small matter of football inability cost Rangers 10 or 15 million pounds, and that meant that Craig Whyte had no chance of keeping Rangers out of administration. In fact, Craig Whyte stated when he finally did put Rangers into administration that he should have done so in September. Why? Because he knew that Rangers had a massive black hole in their budget plans, a £10 million black hole. That was when Rangers really became in trouble under Craig Whyte. But the seed was sown and the problems were put in place by not David Murray 20 years ago, but by John Ure Primrose and by Bill Struth, having been given 80 years of protection from the SFA, the SFL and the SPL, who are all filled with Masonic types who got their job on a mere handshake rather than their capabilities to run the Scottish game. And with all due respect, we need not worry about these men. We need not fear that they have lost their jobs. The fact is, they haven't lost their jobs, and the people of Scotland still need to get on their backs and either make them quit or fire them. Fire them. Fire them. And they should fire Jim Traynor too.
Transfer ban hanging over them now. Whether that pans out or not remains to be seen. They were fined 160 grand. They lost 10 points last season for getting into administration, which again is a consequence of their own actions. Fully admit that. But what?
It's a consequence of their own actions. The 10-point penalty was not a penalty that was not earned. It was a consequence of their own actions. The £160,000 fine will not be paid. Rangers are skint. Rangers have no money. How can Rangers pay this debt when they have no money to pay the debt? The debts have been apparently scrubbed by the change, by the transfer to NewCo or SEVCO 5088. Rangers fought the penalty in court instead of going to the Court of Arbitration in Switzerland. The Court of Sessions threw this back at the SFA, and they invited the SFA not to use a penalty that they hadn't included in the list. They actually did include it when they said that the people who were on the judiciary panel should be able to use other methods that they felt, or other penalties that they felt were appropriate in view of the serious nature of the crimes. But two offences which the SFA, SFL, SPL, Judiciary Committee, Judiciary Panel felt were just a little too harsh were suspension from Scottish football or expulsion from Scottish football. Suspension from Scottish League or expulsion from the Scottish League. Suspension from the Scottish Cups, plural, or expulsion from the Scottish Cups, plural. The Court of Sessions sent this back to the SFA and told them, hit Rangers with the appropriate fine from those which have been laid down. Right now, the battle to save Rangers continues with this wonderful idea to give Rangers the chance to accept the olive branch that was handed out to them when they really should have been expelled from football for their level of greed and their level of corruption. This is still a battle to save Rangers. This is why Rangers fans will say Rangers will never die. And this is why I, Robert Hutton, asked a way back, a long time ago, will Glasgow Rangers be allowed to die? I knew the workings of the secret combinations, I still do. I knew the workings of the Illuminati, I still do. I knew the workings of the Bilderbergs, I still do. I know how corrupt these men are. These men call good bad and bad good. And they want their friends at Glasgow Rangers to be held as some form of wonderful club that everybody needs and loves.
Because I reckon to the thing in the paper the other day about the number of titles, the exact titles in Scottish Cups that some within the game, certainly in the SPL, want Rangers to lose now. But I'd be